Kwena, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we go into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your own background?
My background?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where did you grow up?
So I'm South African. I was born in the Eastern Cape in a very small town called Mthatha. And then my parents decided to move to Gauteng, and so we settled down in Pretoria. So that's where I've spent most of my life, is in Pretoria.
And what was your dream career when you grew up?
I wanted to do so many different things, right? I think what we were considered or influenced into were your more professional careers, like becoming an accountant or becoming a doctor. Yeah. But all I really wanted to do was to start my own bank and open a bank. And be able to give people financing and loans so that they can start their businesses or build their houses or, That I kind of always wanted to do that.
So is that dream still alive?
It's still alive. It's just manifesting itself in different ways. Yeah. Because for me, it's all about uplifting our society, improving society, providing opportunities for development and growth and solid societal impact. So I would say to some extent, it's still alive, but it's showing up in different ways.
And tell us, who inspired you in your early days?
In my early days, I'd say, my parents were very inspirational to me. They were doing their part to improve society. So my mom was a teacher and my dad was an accountant helping small businesses, etc. But, they really inspired me because during that time of apartheid, they were really instilling values of, pride in oneself. Yeah. So I always knew about the leaders that were fighting the battles. I always knew about the holidays that we needed to observe. For example, like June 16, I was staying home for June 16 since even before 94. So for me, that inspired me that they were so proud as human beings, but they were also doing their part to improve society on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And where did you start your career?
Well, it's a bit strange. So I studied accounting at Wits University, but I always knew that it wasn't my calling. So I did, I think, 1 year of articles, and I said to myself, this is not me. I have to be true to what drives me, and I'm not finding it here. Sitting behind a spreadsheet all day isn't for me. So I went back and I studied. I went back to business school. I did a postgrad in management, and then I started doing management consulting after that.
Really?
Yeah, so I went into management consulting for a few reasons. Firstly, it allowed me to do problem solving across different areas, different spectrums, different industries, different organizations. Okay. And I particularly enjoyed the challenge it gave me. So I was allowed to grow very quickly in a short period of time for a young professional. So I was hosting meetings with CEOs a year after being a graduate, for example. They gave you that space to engage at very senior levels and learn very, very quickly in terms of how businesses work and how to solve problems and how to work with others and collaborate with teams to solve problems. So consulting was amazing. Really loved the work that we were doing in the public sector. We had a very big public sector engagement with the Department of Home Affairs where we were pulling down barriers in terms of service delivery, for example, or fixing some of the processes to shorten the delivery time, for example. So I really enjoyed that because it creates a better experience, more quality experience for citizens of the country in terms of accessing services from the government.
So what attracted you to technology?
Well, so I actually went away and did my MBA at UCT. I did it full time. And while I was there, I came across this program called Africa Compt. It's an initiative by the German government for future young leaders of Africa where you get to spend a year in Germany working in a German company to learn the best practices, to learn international management, leadership practices, but also to run a project in a German company working with Germans every day, speaking German. It's a bit rusty now, but I actually know how to speak German. So I came across that program, and it's called Africa Compt. It's an initiative by the German government where they partner with large German companies to host who they think are future leaders. And they do this for several reasons. First of all, it's part of their skills development initiatives across different countries. And they also do it not only to develop the youth that are part of the program, but also to get an understanding of Africa, African markets, African customers, etc. Right. So that the German companies can actually expand more in the region. So that was a year. I landed up at SAP for the first time in a technology company. And while I was there, I was just so inspired by technology and how it can help us to really shape the world, to drive positive change, and to also scale that change at a great level more than before. So for me, I was inspired by that. I saw tech as an opportunity for Africa to step up and hold space in the world, to solve our problems, but to also, improve our overall society.
Now, Kwena, today you're the Africa Director for SAP for Next Gen.
Next Gen, yes.
What can you tell us? What exactly does that entail?
Okay, so it's like the name says, Next Gen. It's all about the next generation, right? How do we enable and empower the next generation of leaders, innovators, influencers, thought leaders that can come and take all the advantages of the opportunities within the tech ecosystem. So that's really what it's all about. It's about innovation, but it's also about innovation with purpose. So we use the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a framework for ourselves, where we're looking at the biggest challenges in the world and seeing how we can use technology to solve them. So everything that we do at NextGen, the DNA, the core is the SDGs, and how we can use technology and bring in young people to solve real challenges.
Now, Kwena, what is driving you every day when you get up in the morning?
So I would say that's what drives me. I'm really passionate about my continent, Africa, because I think we have so many opportunities on this continent and such a great space now to unlock those opportunities. So anything that touches on that gets me going. I'm also passionate about young people because I do honestly believe, I know it's become a cliche to say, but young people truly are the biggest asset. For this continent, obviously, we're going to have the biggest workforce in the next few years. Right. And for me, I'm passionate about unlocking the true potential of young people and enabling them and empowering them with opportunities, particularly within the tech space, because it basically touches every single industry that you can think of.
Now, Kwena, what does the future of leadership mean to you? I know it's a big question.
It's a big question. So I think we have to reframe how we think about leadership being an I topic versus a we topic. I think that the future of leadership, we cannot continue doing the same things that we've done in the past, where we're dealing with a world that's changing so quickly. But also we have to be cognizant and responsible and not destroy but build. So I think for me, the future of leadership encompasses having a collaboration mindset, because that's kind of the biggest value. You can drive more impact, more change, more positive results by working through and with others. So I think it's that, but I also think there has to be a very strong purpose agenda, especially considering climate change and where the earth is at the moment. We need to make sure that our practices are sustainable and not destroying our home, which is, this earth. Right. We also need to ensure that we are inclusive in terms of the future of leadership. No one should be left behind. So the big topic now is around AI and how AI is affecting the future of work and automation, taking away jobs. So as future leaders, we have to be able to be inclusive and not leave anyone behind in terms of having the right skills so that they can do the jobs that humans will be able to do, which of course, most of them don't exist right now. So it's a big question. But I think that future leaders have to have a different imperative and mindset for us to progress as a society.
Right. Now, what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for building future leaders?
So one of the key things that has driven me through my leadership journey, especially considering that my career has never been a straight line, it's all about understanding yourself. So having that level of self-mastery and personal mastery where you are able to understand, what is my purpose? Why am I here on earth? What is the gift that I came to give to the earth? How do I define that purpose? And then how do I show up for that purpose every day? So for me, that has been my biggest takeaway, is to really understand why I'm here. What is that unique thing that my talents, strengths contribute to society?
Right.
And that's kind of been a very good compass for myself. So the challenge I would put to every person, not even only young people, every human on this earth, I challenge you to go and understand your purpose. Right. Spend the time, dig deep, and be able to define that for yourself.
Now, Kwena, when it comes to social media, how would you advise future leaders to handle and navigate social media to build their own brand, their own leadership brand?
Yeah. So, we live in such an exciting time where you can really craft your brand and have that access so many people at the same time. So for me, I would encourage young people to firstly define what their personal brand is. So what do they want when people think of them? What do they want people to vision or think about? And then to look at the different platforms, right? And understand truly what is the purpose of the different platforms, and then how do I then best leverage those platforms to drive my agenda.
Right.
And to also be very responsible about what we post, because of course once it's released on the internet, it's there forever.
Almost.
Yeah. So for example, LinkedIn is more professional. This is where you can really shape your professional brand. Don't post pictures of yourself in a bikini on the beach, for example, on LinkedIn. I wouldn't recommend that. You really want to put forward your professional brand and what you stand for. So 2 things, and 3, understand your brand, understand the platforms and what they're there for, and then map out how you can leverage your platforms to match your brand.
Right. Now, Kwena, what would you say have been the biggest challenges you have encountered in your career, and maybe the challenges that future leaders need to keep in mind when embarking on their career?
Let's see. So I think it can be challenging. So I think what's important is to understand that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I would invest strongly in finding mentors that can assist you along the way to clear down barriers or to give you ideas, etc. One of the challenges that I faced, I always felt that I had to solve the problems by myself or for myself.
Right.
But there's really an opportunity to lean on others that have come before you in terms of unpacking and understanding challenges. So I always say, millennials, we'd like to be very, I guess, independent, and we tend to not appreciate the generational knowledge that's come before us. And I think that should be something that's taken more seriously. We talk about all the different generations. I think everyone has a role to play and something important to offer. So for me, getting great mentors that can help you in different ways can really help unlock challenges that you encounter in your leadership journey.
Kwena, you've just been back from the Brazil, the BRICS Youth Summit
Correct,
in Brazil.
Yes.
Can you tell us what was the verdict on the new skills needed by entrepreneurs, by future leaders, and the youth in general?
Yeah. So this is a very big topic for the BRICS countries. Because obviously we're all now in this 4th industrial revolution, and we need to decide how we are successful as BRICS countries. Skills came up as a topic. So, it was about acquiring the next generation skills and technologies, like understanding how to use or program artificial intelligence, for example, or how do we leverage technologies like blockchain and financial services. Hard skills came up, but a very clear theme was this ability for people to be adaptable and flexible. Because the technology is moving so quickly, If you acquire a skill, for example, in AI, in 5 years, that could be irrelevant. So what's important is the ability to be able to pivot and be flexible and adaptable in terms of moving with the times. So it was very interesting that it was more the softer skills like that that came up. So for example, the way that we study today is not necessarily going to be relevant in the future because you have to be able to change your skills very quickly in a short period of time. So one of the topics was, well, how do we teach people that can relearn and unlearn and consistently acquire skills? So teaching the ability to learn was something that also came up.
Right.
So for me, it's quite interesting because I always say, technology, yes, it's there, automation is coming. It's going to take away jobs, but it's going to create more jobs, and it's going to create jobs that are for humans and allow humans to be more human. Right? So bringing in your empathy, ability to problem solve and innovate, creativity, flexibility, like I mentioned, and all of those softer human characteristics become more important, right? So it helps us to be more human. So future leaders need to be more human, right? In their approach. They need to be able to work with humans, to build humans, to create flexible work environments, and to problem solve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you're also developing the startup guide for Africa, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and what are the benefits for startups, for African startups?
So startup guide is like I like to use the analogy of Lonely Planet. So if you're going to a city like, I don't know, London, and you don't know much about London, you can get Lonely Planet, and it'll paint a picture of London for you. What are the resources? What are the restaurants, hotels? What activities can you do in London? Basically, as a traveler, what do you need to know? So Startup Guide is exactly that, but it paints the innovation narrative of a particular city as an ecosystem. So it tells the story of the startups that are in that city. What are they working on? If I want to start a business in Johannesburg, what is step one? What do I need to do? Where can I get funding? Who are the innovation spaces, co-working spaces and incubators, accelerator programs that can support me? Who are the investors? What do they look for? But basically, if I want to start a business, what is step one as an entrepreneur? But also on the flip side, if I'm sitting in New York and I want to understand, for example, Johannesburg and what innovation looks like in Johannesburg, I can go to Startup Guide and see who are the interesting startups. Let's say I want to invest, maybe. Then I know who is doing what in the city, but also who can I contact that can put me in touch with startups. If I'm sitting in New York, for example, I don't have to travel here. I just go online, Startup Guide Joburg, and already there, that platform gives me all the information that I need to know. So the benefit for startups themselves is it gives you a bit of guidance in terms of who can support you on your entrepreneurial journey, who are the investors locally, but it also provides visibility of your business to the rest of the world.
And literally. What would you say in your research? What are the biggest obstacles for startups from Africa?
So I think, startups in Africa, very exciting space. We're growing exponentially in terms of our innovation ecosystems. But I think that, our startups on this continent need two basic things that I think we need to amplify on. So for example, I think access to skills in terms of how they run their business. How do I take my idea from an idea in my head to a business that's making money and able to go to market? And address the needs of customers. So that whole skill set, I think there's a gap for that because, of course, entrepreneurship you're born with it, I think, to some extent, but you also need the right skills to have successful businesses. So I think there's a gap there. And then I think that also what could be improved is more access to early stage funding. For very early stage startups that are just beginning and need that additional boost to build their product, for example. So I think there is some funding available in the market, in the ecosystem, but I think a lot of it is still very risk averse, so they tend to invest more in startups that are already established. But we need visibility, and we need access to early stage opportunities for funding that are available for startups. And it's not always a loan, by the way. So sometimes it's a grant. There are so many different programs out there that are offering grants that can fund your business, but I think there's also a lack of visibility from the point of the startups in terms of knowing who's offering what.
And Kwena, in your career, talking about mentorship, have you been exposed to any mentors that have played an influence or had an influence in your career?
Absolutely. I have a number of mentors for different things. So, for example, I have a mentor that supports me with my career path and how to actualize my career path. And then I have another mentor who supports me in terms of how I build programs and implement programs. So I have different mentors for different things. I think that there are different people that can help you in terms of your career. It's not only kind of like this one view, I can only have one mentor. I think you have to understand where you want to grow and then find mentors that can support that. I think also we tend to think about mentorship in like such a, it's so far away from me, but mentors could be even people in your family that are right there, close by, that hold certain skills or have certain experience. Look around you as well for mentors. It doesn't have to be this famous CEO that's sitting somewhere inaccessible. Mentors are also your next door neighbor, your aunt, your uncle, people that are close by.
And talking about role models, are there any role models of leadership yet that you would suggest future leaders should learn from?
So I think the imperative for future leaders, I think, is being more human, but also being purpose driven. So the need to solve challenges for society. And to understand in terms of your person, what is your purpose in driving societal upliftment. So I like leaders like, there's so many that I can think of. I'm really inspired by people like Oprah, for example. I'm inspired by people like Oprah, who was very intentional about her purpose as wanting to uplift humanity by telling stories, but also, being very intentional about, what I do to support and uplift society around me, right? So I'm building my career, but I'm also building a better world. So for me, those kind of values inspire me. Someone like Oprah is also very resilient, right? So she's shown resilience in her career where there have been failures. She sees that as an opportunity to move forward and not be discouraged, but to move forward and pivot and challenge herself further. So those are some of the values that I admire.
So Kwena, how can our listeners connect with you and where should they follow you?
So listeners can find me on every platform.
Okay.
All the platforms that we know. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Under Kwena Mabotja. Please do connect on LinkedIn there. I really use LinkedIn as a great platform to find collaborators and like-minded people. And for me, collaboration is a big part of driving real impact. So get me on LinkedIn, reach out, drop me a message. But also that's where you can also see some of the activities that we run under the Next Gen program. And then I'm also on Twitter. On Twitter, you can find me under Kwena_Lebogang. Another platform that I use a lot to talk about stories, to engage people on different topics, especially those that are interested in the empowerment of youth and women and girls. And then I'm also on Instagram. Although I mostly use my Instagram for my own personal purposes. So I'd say Facebook and Instagram, I'm there, but it's mostly kind of my personal accounts. But my professional work, you'll definitely see more on LinkedIn and Twitter.
And last but not least, Kwena, is there one piece of advice that you would really like to convey to future leaders that they should implement in their own lives?
Know thyself.
Okay.
know thyself.
Yeah.
Have a clear understanding of your purpose
Right.
on earth. Challenge yourself to ask, how can I deliver this purpose on a day-to-day basis? How do I show up with this purpose? And what are the strengths that I bring to the table that help me to drive that purpose? So I think spending a bit of time with yourself is really important.
Right.
Do that self-reflection, and spend that time to understand, who you are as a leader.
Well, Kwena, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership. And not just for showing us a way, but also, I believe, for mapping the future of Africa. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.